I have this opportunity to meet Susan Wheelan, and I would like to start with the question, can you tell me a little bit about your theory?
It's called the integrated model of group development because there were a lot of people that lived before me, and there were a whole bunch of people describing group phenomenon. And so basically how it ended up being was integrated from not just what I was thinking, but also what many psychologists and philosophers way back to the 1890s. And there were all kinds of different ways of thinking about it, and I thought, well, maybe, because some of them all said similar things, maybe I could put that together and then test it, research it, to see if in fact it works. Basically, based on the research that went before me, it was pretty clear that it's a stage theory.
It's a stage, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I'll give you an example. I was doing doing an assessment with the team in the basement of a hospital. So, these are guys that never went to high school, etc. But when I said, groups develop across time, for him, what I said, for them, what I said, it's very much like individual humans. Childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, adulthood, and old age. And that's exactly how groups are. Basically, it's a developmental theory. And so it's very, by that I mean, for example, people that went before were kind of thinking about stages. And a lot of people talked about stages of human development. And then people started to notice that groups, are pretty quiet in the beginning and then start discussing at stage 2. And so it isn't the only theory, it's just one that I had the ability to do the research on, and in fact that is the case. And usually the first 3 months, everyone wants immediately for the group to be productive, and it isn't. In the beginning, it's kind of stage 1, the first month, let's say. It's almost like this: the leader's talking, and the members are just, okay, whatever you say, boss, that's all right, whatever you want. Okay, you could compare it with adolescence, but at stage 2, if the leader says, well, we're going to do this now, somebody's going to say, I don't think that's the right thing to do. Thus, stage 2. It's, it's basically, there's some people worry about stage 2, like it's conflict. It really isn't. What it is the group needs to figure out, what are we doing really? What are our goals? How are we going to, what are we doing? And as opposed to what a lot of people think, they're in a work group and they went through stage 1, but then when they got to stage 2, they are arguing not about the work, but often about Harry.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, Harry, what a pain in the butt, that kind of behavior. And that's not what stage 2 all should be about. It's very simple. Clarify the goal. What are you going to be doing exactly?
If we in the same group, you and I, and you say something that I don't like?
A lot of times in stage 2, one member decides not to like the other member. That's not a good idea. That could ruin a group. I mean, the whole point is to organize. What is our goal really? And not to focus on individuals. Focusing on individuals is death to groups. If you think this individual is terrible and then people start talking about that individual, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
It isn't about Group development is not about individuals, it's about group development.
Yeah.
And so focusing at stage 2 about conflicts between individuals is going to get you nowhere. So the group needs to be discussing and certainly some disagreeing, but about the work, not about people.
It doesn't matter if I like you or not.
It doesn't really.
No.
Just stay. I mean, I often ask groups that are in trouble like that, have you ever had a job? This is a job. It isn't about who you like. Who cares who you like? This is what your work is. You know, this is what you need to be doing as a group. The goal is not for everybody to like each other at all, but to be productive in relationship to the work. Okay, that's stage 2, and at stage 3, basically, different people will be doing different jobs related to the goal. And that stage 3 is kind of making it clear about who's doing this and who's doing that and how are we going to do it. What do we need to get organized so that we can really perform at a high level. And that's what stage 3 is about. And then with stage 4, it's
Just perform.
just do it.
Yes, just do it.
Well, not all teams get to stage 4.
No?
It would be lovely if it did. But there are a lot of teams that don't. Like, for example, there was a downsizing in one company that I was working with, and they had been at stage 4, and they went straight back to stage 2
Okay.
because people on their team were getting laid off, and they were really angry. So it's not that you get to 4 and you stay at 4
forever.
No, I know. I mean, some teams would stay there forever, but a lot of teams don't. Regression can happen.
Yeah. If you have a new goal, a very difficult goal, for example, can it happen that you go back to stage 3 or stage 2 even though?
No, actually, if you're in stage 3 or 4, and somebody outside asks them to, take on this goal, usually the group will do it and then get back to its own work.
Okay.
It doesn't go all the way back.
And stage 5 then? You have a stage 5 as well?
Only for work groups that have a deadline.
Yeah, like project.
Project
Yes,
teams.
yeah. Can you say in your research that it takes 2 weeks to reach next level or next stage, or does it take 3 months or 5 months, or does it depend on the group?
Groups are different, but in general, from the database,
Yeah.
it's you can get to stage 4, to the work stage. You can do it in 6 months,
Okay.
but you can't do it in 2 months. You know what I mean? But if you're a team that's done that once, and then you have something that you have to do, but you're at stage 4, and somebody says, could you stop for a minute and do X, Y, and Z? Sure, why not? We're stage 4. And then they go back to their work.
Yeah. You have done a lot of research about the effectiveness
Yes.
in groups. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I looked basically at a lot of different things, like, for example, intensive care units. When the doctors work together well, more people live. When the doctors do not work well together, more people die.
Okay.
This is no joke anymore. This is like scary stuff, right? In elementary schools, we did all over Ohio, the poorest the areas of Ohio. When the teachers collaborated together, those kids who were really poor kids who had to have a special lunch were doing as well as the kids in the suburbs. Who knew? But that's what happened. Those kids on test scores were exactly the same as the test scores of the kids.
Because
that
the
were rich.
teachers were working together.
Working together, more
Yeah.
collaboration, more interest, I think, more, etc.
In Sweden, a lot of managers or leaders, they are used to use FIRO, Will Schutz theory, and they use it as a group dynamic theory. Then, can you compare these two a little bit, or can you tell me what's the difference between the two?
Well, it seems people are using it as a group thing, but it's not. It's about Joe and Mary and Liesel and this, and that's not group. It's personality focused first, where people are kind of figuring out how they are as an individual.
In groups.
How I am in groups.
Yeah,
but that's individual.
Yeah. If we are a group and someone is very negative, how can I, as a group member, deal with that person?
I wouldn't deal with them at all, actually.
Okay.
Basically, what happens is that happens only at stage 2.
Yeah.
It never happens anywhere else except stage 2. And in stage 2, usually some members of the group kind of pick on somebody, like, oh, he's a goofball, And meanwhile, he's the great guy. He's the one that has the good idea. Do you know what I mean? And so it's really important for people at stage 2 to stay away from personality stuff and stay focused on the work.
Yeah.
And very often, you'll find that there's an individual who has some really great ideas, but he's maybe a little odd, maybe a little different, and people are not using the skills of this individual. So you really want to focus on basically getting people to discuss their ideas and including everybody in some way. Sometimes it's fun for groups to, at stage 2, write down what you think we ought to do, and then somebody collates that, and the next meeting we have it organized, and then they can start moving forward.
You have 4 stages in your theory, or maybe 5 if you take the last one, determination. But if I am a leader of a group, do I have to act in different ways in the different stages, or can I act the same way, independence of who the group dynamics are?
Oh, well, if the leaders and the members understand the dynamics of groups, everybody changes at different stages. Early on, in stage 1, the leader talks and the members nod. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not too much is going on. But as the group develops, everybody changes. At stage 2, instead of disagreeing about people, they start talking about work and what's the goal and those kinds of things. So no, it's everybody changes. The leaders change, and the members change.
Yeah, but can I help the group as a leader to move faster?
Everybody wants leaders to be the most important thing in a group, and it isn't. A leader is a good part of the group, but his primary task is to kind of coordinate the agenda and get that work through, and then bring it up to the next level.
Yeah.
And in that, it isn't, leaders can't do it all by themselves and never will be able to, because there's so many other people. Like, if you've got a group of 10 people, it's 9 against 1 if they're in stage 2. But how would leaders be able to do that without essentially the agreement of the group? And a lot of times, leaders are from outsiders, like their leaders, the leader of the group. If it isn't productive, it's assumed that it's the leader's fault. Well, that's not true either. You need the leaders, you need the members, you need the resources, and often I've known of situations where a leader was fired as if it was his fault and
Yeah.
only his fault, and that isn't right.
How many people it's perfect for a group? Is it 5 or is it 10 or is it 20 or
Right.
where in what way are the most effective group?
It helps if the group is smaller, somewhere from 6 to 12.
Yeah.
If it's too small, you don't get enough information from different people. But somewhere to 6 to 12 is pretty good. Now, in some places, when there are, let's say, 30 teachers and they have meetings, 30 teachers and they have meetings, I don't think so. You know what I mean? Doesn't really work. That might be just for information. The principal
Yeah.
gives information, but maybe you need the teachers in the kindergarten 1 and 2, and then another team with 3, 4, 5. Those kinds of smaller teams are going to be much more productive. And just to give you an example, Christian Jacobson, my friend and colleague, has been looking at with one of his graduate students. He's from the University at Göteborg, and basically what they discovered was that the better the team in Volvo was working, the less anyone took a sick day. You want to be with your team. Do you know what I mean? So that solves a big financial problem for Volvo. If less people are staying home, then Volvo is losing time,
Of
money,
course.
etc.
What is the most important message you want to send with us when we are working with groups? Do you have a message?
A message.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, to kind of think about the group, don't just think about the individuals. Think about the group. Where are we? What are we doing together? What's our goal? How can we move from, this to this? To really think about this as a group and not as a bunch of individuals.
It was nice to talk with you and discuss your research, and I thank you a lot for being here with us.
Well, I had fun. It was interesting to have a conversation, and I appreciate that. Thank you.